is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. There is, of course, just 100 days to go until the World Cup, but there's a much shorter period of time before we can hear the dulcet tones of Mr. Mike Parry, who has joined me in the studio. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Mike. Good to be here again, pal. The issues that we have to look at tonight are the important issues that people are talking about that shape their lives.
It's about setting the agenda, really, isn't it?
Setting the agenda. That's
for the week.
That's
what we like to do here.
That's
We
what
set
I
the
like.
agenda for the week, and then at the end of the week, we set the agenda for the weekend, and we look back on the week. And it's been a fascinating weekend of football, isn't it? Because there's been so many incidents, as ever,
Unbelievable,
that have absolutely got people completely polarised as to what should be going on. You're not going to start singing, please.
No, I was just
too early. It's too early for that.
Just reiterating what you're saying. Right, OK.
Well, let's start with Alan Pardew.
Alan Pardew.
Because here's a guy who I saw over the weekend on social media that you were, for some reason, on his side here.
Well,
you decided that he hasn't done anything wrong, and you don't even think he should be punished.
Hang on, let's get this into perspective, right? The most important person now in the Alan Pardew situation is, believe it or not, Chief Inspector Richard Kirvin, OK?
Police Chief Inspector?
Chief Inspector Richard Kirvin of the Humberside Police has very kindly given us this statement. Having reviewed the circumstances of the incident, it has been agreed that the matter will be dealt with by the FA rather than considered for any criminal proceedings.
Yeah.
I mean, has the world
that is
gone
a ridiculous
mad?
thing. I mean,
has
I agree with
the
you about
world
that.
gone completely mad?
I do agree with you about that because I think when people, it's an amazing number of fans start talking about, criminal proceedings when something happens on a football pitch. And the argument they always use is, well, if somebody did that on the street, then they'd be arrested. Yeah, but it's not on the street.
No, it's not on the street because on the street, you see, what happens on the street is that arrogant footballers, don't go and push managers around on the touchline. Right. The manager then gets, a little bit unsettled and thinks, hang on, son, you're not showing me respect.
Yeah.
And you are physically pushing me around.
Yes.
So you have humiliated me and belittled me. Yeah. So I'm going to make it clear to you I'm unhappy. So he didn't go in to nut him in the face. It was a forward incursion.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have done it, though.
Of course he shouldn't have done it, but it was a forward incursion into the face space which surrounds...
The face space? That's nice, I like that.
Yeah, the face space which surrounds Alan Pardew's head.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bang, take that, son, Glasgow kiss
if
type.
If it had been,
I'll break your nose for you.
But the idea that people are calling for him to be sacked and they're calling for all sorts of measures to be put against him, he may miss the rest of the season. He may be banned for the rest of the season.
It's a terrible overreaction, and it should be redesignated forward incursion of face space. That's what it was, and it wasn't a physical assault. Now, the point is...
I don't think they've got a clause in the FA's rule book for that. What would you do? What would you do? When you were at the FA in your capacity as many things...
Director of Communications.
Director of Communications, as Mr. Alan Brazil says, door opener for various people at various points, right? How would you handle something like this? Because they're saying we are now in
we did have to handle one.
We're in uncharted territory.
No, we did have to handle one. We had to handle the Cantona one.
Yeah.
The Cantona
one... that must have been uncharted territory
Of course it was. The Cantona one happened on my beat. I mean, there's nothing in the rule book which tells you how to deal with a professional footballer who decides to kung fu kick a fan on the way off the pitch.
What did you think of that then? Did you walk around the FA saying, I don't think we should overreact to this?
Well, yeah, in a way I did really, because the fan in question, who will remain anonymous on this show for reasons of legality and good taste, said something that was so provocative, Cantona reacted. Now, this was a provocation for Pardew. I thought Steve Bruce was incredibly eloquent, really, in his response.
He's a very level-headed man,
Very level-headed man, said, of course, we accept his apology and all that. And I think the boy concerned, whose name I can never pronounce, what's his name?
David Mailer.
Mailer, that's right, Mailer. I think that he should come out and help Alan Pardew as a fellow professional, footballer to manager, but of course Pardew was a footballer.
Yeah.
I think he should come out and say, look, OK, I shoved him in the first place.
He was at fault in the first place.
He was at fault in the first place. I shoved him in the first place. He reacted to me. He said he didn't actually knock me on the face and all that. And I think he should say, I'm prepared to shake hands with Alan Pardew. And quite frankly, I think this is getting blown out of proportion.
But now you're going down the Sepp Blatter route of saying everybody can shake hands after 90 minutes and everything's fine. Because I'll tell you the difference between the Eric Cantona thing was obviously something had to be done about Cantona because that was an assault on not another player, but a member of the public who had paid to watch the game, who shouldn't normally be expected to have to be kicked in the face. However, in this case, this is just something that happened on the pitch.
Yeah, but it's exactly something that happened on the pitch. Now, what I'm saying is the whole world is going... And you're right, when did this happen? Saturday afternoon. I saw it very quickly after it happened. I don't know why, Mike, but on phones these days, people send out clips of all sorts of things, and you just press the play button, and all of a sudden I'm watching it seconds after it had happened. Yeah. And my immediate response to it was, well, OK, bit naughty, but I mean, it's not a,
Yeah, but you alone,
this is not a hanging offence.
As serious football pundits are, such as yourself, you're about the only one who hasn't been up in arms about this. Because the thing is, I didn't see it until I was able to watch Match of the Day on Saturday night.
Right.
And once I saw that, I could see that there was a very good reason why people get very worked up about it, because he shouldn't have done it. Now, at the same time as saying he should have respect for the role that he's got, he should then he should command respect by behaving in a certain way, shouldn't he?
Well, of course he should, but he's a hothead and he does lose control of himself on the line. He admitted all that. But what I'm saying is, the Twitterati bullying campaign swings into full, gear.
Well,
100%.
Is the only thing they know, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The minute that you disagree with them. So me saying, look, come on, are we all not getting a bit too excited? I got all sorts of responses then to, you idiot, Parry,
Well, you get that a lot anyway.
I do get it a lot. You're absolutely right. You're a disgrace. How can you defend it? And all that kind of. All I'm saying is get a sense of proportion about it all, because actually, as an incident, by the way, you just pointed out, they say if it happened in the street, you'd be arrested. The other thing they say is, any 12-year-old kid watching that will try and imitate him tomorrow and all that. 12-year-old kids are not actually managers. No. 12-year-old kids are players, right? And it's 12-year-old kids.
It is a valid point, though.
It's not a valid point.
It is, of course it is.
It's not a valid point.
When they see their heroes on the pitch behaving like that and getting themselves into fights, I mean, we could talk about Charlie Adam as well. him stamping on
disgraceful.
On old Giroud's leg.
I thought it was disgraceful.
Where he could very, very easily have avoided doing so. You're going to see some of that being done. But how about this, though? There's a story going around from the chief executive of the League Managers Association, which is to say, his name's Richard Bevan, to say that they're now having a look at the technical area to see what they can do to improve it. So what are they do? Put a fence around it or something?
No. They claim that Charlton has a particularly good dugout. It's not the technical area. I think it's the dugout. And they're saying if the dugout is a good way... I mean, have you noticed at Old Trafford, the dugout is in fact not a dugout, it's a balcony. It's an elevated space above the pitch rather than below
but that's
it.
Not the technical area. The technical area is the bit that's marked
out. I know. And that's what I'm saying. I think they're talking more about keeping the players away, the managers more away from the pitch.
I think at Old Trafford they're trying to get one outside for David Moyes so that he doesn't have to put up with all the horrible booing that goes on.
A cheap crack. I'm going to respond to that. But this idea that, a 12-year-old kid now, if the 12-year-old kid was trying to imitate his heroes, then he'd be imitating the player, not the manager.
Yes.
So it's
that's another thing.
So why hasn't the player been disciplined as well for starting up this by literally pushing Alan Pardew out of the way? And I've read a couple of accounts saying the player was just, as time was running out, trying to get to the ball.
Did he not get yellow carded for doing that as well?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. And Pardew got in the way. But
should there not be a rule that the players aren't allowed to enter the technical area?
Well, you can't have that, Mike, because if you're moving with velocity, and velocity is the definition of speed in a particular direction, not just speed in a loose direction, because I'm a bit of a physicist as well.
We've been through this one before, which is a completely nonsensical definition, by the way.
No. And if the player can't suddenly contain the kinetic energy, which is the energy which you gather from pace. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And he goes bowling across the pitch, and he ends up in the technical area. How can you say you shouldn't go in there?
I think if you follow,
you can't explain that, can you?
If you follow the trajectory of his body, I think you'll find that he could have probably avoided Alan Pardew.
No.
I think he took great advantage of the fact that he could kind of bump into him because he wanted to.
He was chasing the ball, and the ball was going in that direction, so he had to chase it.
So are you saying that you don't think there should be any punishment for Alan Pardew then?
Of course there should, but I would have thought that, a 3-game ban from the touchline would be... You see, I tell you why, and I tell you why I think the player has a responsibility. If Pardew gets banned for 10 games, which is one of the, headline sort of predictions for tomorrow in several of the papers...
the whole rest of the season.
I was about to say, the whole rest of the season. Then according to yesterday's papers, which I read, the Sunday papers, that would constitute... probably dismissal from Newcastle United, because they're not talking about just a touchline ban here, Mike, like they do when they say go up in the stands. They're talking about keeping him out of the stadium for 10 games.
Ban,
Now, if that's the case...
Well, that's right, when Jose Mourinho smuggled himself in a basket,
absolutely. If that is the case, then, clearly Mr Pardew cannot take control of the team in vital matches between now and the end of the season as they try to get high enough up the league for a European place. And on that basis... I suppose Newcastle have every right to turn round and say, look, you're no use to us, son. You can't even come in the ground.
But have they not said that they're not going to take any further action against him?
Well, they have so far, but what they said is we have instituted disciplinary proceeding against...
and they fined him £100,000, I think.
That's 2 weeks' wages, I suppose, is it?
I suppose
it is,
somebody was saying to me, actually, earlier on the old social media, that somebody should campaign to make that payment go to charity. I don't know whether it is already, but it's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all. But the point is that I think the players have a responsibility to say, look, it's all getting a bit out of hand, this, because if Pardew now is barracked out of the game, and although you say, well, Newcastle have said that, they've sorted it, they have sorted it, but they've sorted it to the extent that they're in control of the situation at the moment. They won't be in control of the situation if the FA say he can't go near a football ground for the next 10 games.
But you'd have to say, if he does end up being dismissed as a result of being banned for the rest of the season from the stadium, then it's only his own fault, really.
I think it's too severe a penalty. And then he'd be largely unemployable at any other football club because of his reputation and the baggage he takes with him.
He is, and I've got nothing against Alan Pardew.
And I think that's too severe a penalty.
I've got nothing against Alan Pardew, but as you've seen in the papers for the last 2 days, he does have previous this kind of thing.
Well, he does,
he has lost the rag at various different managers over the course of time, and he's been walking on thin ice for quite a long time.
But we all lose our rag.
Well, yeah, we do, but he's in a position of respect. He's in a position of responsibility.
I lose my rag.
Yeah, but you don't go around headbutting people.
No, I don't, but I do get,
you can't reach most people.
I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not going to rise to that. Rise to that. Yeah.
No, you can't rise to it.
What I was going to say was that sometimes I lose my rag, and I don't go around getting physical with people.
No.
But I can.
That's just as well.
I can be injurious of mouth.
Injurious of mouth?
I can, you sort of shout at people and that sort of stuff.
Well, you can be very offensive.
No, not offensive, just injurious of mouth through my superior intelligence, sort of, lacerating people mentally.
Lacerating people verbally, I think is what you're looking for. Mike Porky Parry has obviously swallowed a thesaurus, but he's swallowed it the wrong way round, unfortunately. More from the two mics coming up next. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We are the Two Mics, of course, and there will be another Two Mics podcast on iTunes coming up a few hours from now. We'll be sending out all sorts of links and things like that. Now, but just before we go on, I want to ask you about a young man by the name of Stephen Parry. I was reading about him over the weekend. He's playing cricket for...
Top cricketer.
Well, you know about him, do you?
Yeah.
He's been playing cricket out in the West Indies, of course.
Yes.
And Stuart Broad says he believes Stephen Parry could play a vital part in England's World T20 campaign in Bangladesh later this month. He's 28 years old. He's from Lancashire. I just wondered if you might be related.
No, not at all. But,
it's quite an uncommon name, isn't it, Parry?
It's quite an uncommon name, but the Parrys are achievers, and so it doesn't surprise me at all.
Can you name any other Parrys who have achieved anything?
Me?
No. I think it's a straight answer.
That's a bit harsh.
Well, there's you.
Yeah.
There's Stephen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, in Wales, there's a lot of achievers. There's Parry the baker.
You're not from Wales.
There's Parry the milk.
You told me on many occasions you're not from Wales.
Parry the bread. There's a lot of them around.
Parry the Undertaker.
But I don't know if there's a Parry the Undertaker, but a lot of them around in these little sort of villages in the sort of the Rhondda Valley and all that kind of place. So
that's in South Wales.
Yeah, well, so
you're
what?
From North Wales.
So what? Sorry?
I thought you were from North Wales.
I'm not from Wales at all, Mike. I'm not from Wales at all.
Yeah, but you're from Chester, which is North Wales, isn't it?
It's on the North Wales border.
Yeah.
And in fact, my school...
So what's it got to do with the Rhondda Valley?
Well, the Rhondda Valley is the biggest valley in Wales, so I thought you'd like to know that. I'm very sure. I come more from the Snowdonia area of influence, or my name does, yeah. But no, I tell you, if you drove from Chester to Cardiff, through Wales, you would see 100 signs. Yes, you can.
No, you can't. You have to come down through Shrewsbury and then you need to make a right.
Yeah, well, that sort of thing.
You can't drive through the middle of Wales. It's one of the big problems with the place.
Yeah, well, it is actually, yeah. It's like trying to get to Aberystwyth. Trying to get to Aberystwyth is like going down the longest single-track farm.
Isn't it amazing? I nearly went to university in Aberystwyth.
Well, I went for an interview there.
Did you?
And it took about 3 days to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing.
I had to go. It was like an open day, and they wanted you to go and see it, right? And I had to get a train from London to Wolverhampton, I think, a different train from Wolverhampton to Shrewsbury, and then on that single-track railway, as you said.
Yeah.
And when I got there, it was about 2:00 in the afternoon.
It was all shut.
And I said to the guy who was there, the tide was out as well, and it was this horrible kind of slate affair on the beachfront.
Yes.
And I said to the guy at the station, so when's the next train, or the last train back to London? And he went 3:30. So I could only go and have a look at it for 45 minutes, and I had to get back on the train.
Really? For another 7-hour journey back to London?
Yeah. And of course, by the time I got back to Wolverhampton, the train that I had to pick up had come from Glasgow. Yeah. And I was desperate for a drink, and it was completely been drunk dry.
Yeah, I should imagine so.
Shocking.
Well, I went there once to do a story, and I worked for the Express in Manchester, and it doesn't matter what the story was, because when I got there, it was a better story. There were all these squaddies, and they were all having a drink in town, and they were in what's called a holding camp. They'd just come back from Northern Ireland. They were going back to their base, but I didn't realise in Aberystwyth there's like a holding camp, it's a sort of halfway house. And the big story was that two of these guys, incredibly fit and all that, got confronted by a bunch of local guys, and the local guys accused them of trying to tap up local women,
So it's a familiar scenario.
Yeah, it's a very familiar scenario. So the two squaddies said, look, don't even bother, fellas. We've just come back from Ireland. We're not interested in it. Just go away. So a group of about 6 or 8 of these local boys attacked the two squaddies, who utterly refused to retaliate because their training from Ulster was never to retaliate against a civilian unless you suspect your life is in danger, i.e. the civilian is armed.
They just
took a beating. And they were booted and kicked and on. They didn't try to defend themselves at all. It was a bizarre story which I broke to the world and revealed, the incredible discipline and strength of the British Army under the most trying circumstances.
And you just fell upon this story, did you?
I fell upon it, yeah. I fell upon it because I saw them all beaten up with beaten up faces in pubs and wondered what they were doing around there,
So it shows you if you hang around enough pubs, you get enough stories.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
you've been moaning about pubs to me as well.
Well,
you're absolutely moaning about pubs.
I go in a pub in the South Coast over the weekend.
A lot of your stories involve pubs.
Yeah, well, they do, yeah.
Because almost all your stories involve pubs.
No, I'm a social animal, and in this pub, I was with a couple of members of my family, so I had to get about 3 or 4 drinks in, right? So I'm standing there, and a bloke in front of me, no joke, he orders 6 latte coffees.
Right.
Coffees. Now, 2 things happen at this point.
Was it lunchtime, busy pub?
It was about 12:30, and it was very busy pub, and there weren't enough staff behind the bar. There never are really in this pub. No. And anyway, first of all, the look on the barman's face told it all to start off with. Oh no, this is going to take half an hour. Yeah. The look on my face, steam coming out my ears. Oh no, this is going to take half an hour. Yeah. The look on the face of the fella behind me. Oh, this is going to take an hour. You know what I mean? It's the most ridiculous scenario. If you want to go into a pub and have a coffee, shouldn't there be like a part of the pub over there saying coffees only?
Well, maybe.
And shouldn't the beer be served from behind the bar, which is what a pub is meant for?
There's lots of things
a pub is not meant for making coffee.
Well, I think it's good that people can have a kind of continental attitude to going out. You don't have to go to a pub.
I don't want to be continental. If I wanted a continental style of having a drink at lunchtime, I'd get a ferry to France. Wouldn't I?
Would you?
Yeah, of course I would.
Why wouldn't you just go to a bar where you could get a glass of wine and sit outside on the pavement?
No, well, wine, I don't mind. That's alcoholic. But I don't think that pubs should now be packed with people drinking coffee.
Well, the thing is that most pubs now have worked out that actually they don't want to be serious drinking dens because that puts off other people from going there. Lots of people go to the pub for lunch. Lots of people go to the pub
I accept that.
because they drive a car and they don't want to be able to have an alcoholic drink.
Yeah, I accept that.
What I would say is that these pubs
This is a town centre pub, by the way.
Yeah, but these pubs should get better at what they do. If they're going to sell coffee,
it's a town centre pub.
They should be able to make it quickly. I mean, it's like all of these coffee houses around London now and all over the country. Starbucks and Pret and all these different places. Cafe Nero. I mean, they're very quick at making the coffee. You can go in.
They're not quick at making coffee in pubs.
Well, they need to get better at it.
And their equipment looks as though it's come from the 1920s. All these sort of silver pipes
and they
all
never
over
know
the
how
place.
To operate it either,
never know how to operate it. The saucers and the cups are always in the wrong place. They don't know where the sugar is. But
that's their fault then, isn't it?
And you saying, people will drive there and have a coffee. This was a city centre pub. Nobody would have gone to that pub in a car. Nobody.
I will occasionally have a coffee in a pub. What's wrong with that?
No, I never drink coffee in a pub. I don't coffee. I go to a coffee house, or I go home and I make it with my kettle and the Maxwell House and
the Maxwell House.
Sorry,
the Maxwell House.
Well, whatever
Why
it is.
The Maxwell House. You mean you drink instant coffee?
Well, of course I drink instant coffee.
Why haven't you got a proper coffee maker?
Because I don't drink enough coffee to have a coffee maker. I hardly ever drink coffee anyway. I don't like coffee very much, and so I don't know why other people drink it
then.
I drink it occasionally if I feel like
I've had to punish yourself. Or
no. If I feel I've had too much tea and there's too much tannin in my body, I think a bit of caffeine might help balance it up. That's all. But I mean, honestly, it drives me mad. These people drinking coffee in pubs, or just have a coffee corner.
But the problem with pubs in this country is that they are still suffering from that hangover from days gone by when service industry in this country was absolutely awful. Right? Because you'll go. I mean, a number of times because I go to quite a lot of pubs and take the kids for pub lunches and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And obviously they don't drink. I mean, they'll have a soft drink. I'll sometimes particularly if we've driven somewhere, I'll just have a coffee with whatever it is because I don't really like soft drinks cold.
No, I don't either.
If I'm going to have a cold drink, I'd rather have an alcoholic one.
I have a shandy. I have a shandy if you want a soft drink. I like a shandy.
That's not a soft drink. It's got alcohol in it.
Well, yeah, but it's a very mild drink, isn't it?
It's still got alcohol in it. The point is you can't drive if you had one of those. Anyway, the point is this.
Of course you can.
Sometimes you cannot.
Pint of shandy?
Well, you shouldn't.
That's half a pint of beer.
You shouldn't drink and drive, basically.
Well, of course you shouldn't, but I mean, I
know that the law says that you can have one drink. Actually, it'd be much more sensible if they just said you can't have anything to drink. It would make much more sense. But here's the thing. You sometimes go to these places and they'll say, I'm afraid we're a bit busy today. It's going to be about 45 minutes for the food. right?
Yeah.
Now, you've got 2 kids who are pretty hyper and pretty active and they're hungry, and you cannot sit at a table with 2 kids.
No, for 45 minutes. I totally agree.
And it's nonsensical. I don't know what is the problem with this country.
Absolutely nonsensical. I totally agree with all that, and you're absolutely right. Look, I like pubs to be social, I like families together, and like but the coffee thing is driving me mad. The first pub in this country that bans coffee sales.
Well, why don't you just go to a pub that doesn't sell coffee?
Because there aren't any pubs that don't sell coffee.
Plenty.
No,
I can find you I can find you the 10 pubs within walking distance of this office where they don't sell coffee. I bet you any money.
You seem to use a lot of pubs around the office.
Well, I've been to most of them. I've been working here for years. I'm sure you know the ones I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Sit there like some ingenue.
No, I don't.
Pubs around the office?
No,
what do you mean?
No, I don't.
What do you mean?
I've never found a pub in the last 2 or 3 years that doesn't sell
work
coffee.
At 1 o'clock. We used to find ourselves quite often in one of the hostelries not far from here.
Yeah, okay, having a quick drink to slow down the adrenaline after a show or something like that. That's
meeting,
fine.
I think we used to call
production meetings or something like that. But people are always getting coffees. Anyway, look, I've had a rant about
really
coffee.
Grumpy about it.
Well, I'm not grumpy about it. I just think it's I just think that somebody's trying to change the natural culture of this country. In pubs, you drink alcohol, and in coffee houses, you drink coffee. That is as simple as it gets. If you want to go continental, get on a boat to France.
You're so provincial. You should go back to Chester. This is TalkSport Extra Time. More from the 2 mics next.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Porky Parry. We are the 2 mics, of course. And as I said, there will be an iTunes podcast out a little bit later on today. There's a whole collection of them now, loads of them out there for people to get their teeth into. Now, I was talking earlier, Mike, about how the weather seems to be taking a bit of a turn for the better. It looks like it's going to be spring-like this week.
Spring-like?
Spring-like. The weather's warmer. There's some high pressure coming in. I know you know about these meteorological terms.
Yes.
There's high pressure coming in for the first time. Because I read an amazing story, though, in the papers yesterday about a tree in Sevenoaks, or near Sevenoaks in Kent. It's a 40-foot fir tree, right?
Wow, it's a big
in
tree.
a place called Chiddingstone. It got blown down in one of the storms. Now, get this. Miraculously, it has stood itself back up again. Now, apparently, according to the people who know about this, yes, it has. They say it may have been blown back upright again. There's an incredible picture of it actually lying down.
Yeah.
And because of the strange nature of the vortex of the wind, it somehow managed to blow itself back up. And now it's standing again.
Have you got a picture of it standing up again?
There is a picture of it standing up again. Have a look at it right here. There it is being blown over, right?
Right, yeah.
And there it is standing back up again.
Hang on, show me that first one again.
It's very clearly blown over. You can see like a flood there because the roots are all still attached. And now it's been blown back up again.
Somebody's come along, a workman or something, and righted the tree and tried to save it by putting its roots back in the ground.
No, they haven't.
I wonder if other trees have done it. I wonder if other trees have helped, because I believe there is a communication process amongst trees around the world.
Well, you think they talk to each other?
Well, no, the roots of trees go so far into the earth that
there's a talking tree in The Wizard of Oz. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
No, I'm not talking about a talking tree, you
The
fool.
one that throws the apples at Dorothy.
What I'm saying is, we've all seen like these see-through pictures of the human body where nerve endings go all over your body and all that. No, not X-rays, like more detail than that. And you see nerves go all over the body. Well, I believe that the roots of trees go all over the earth and in many, many ways interconnect. Now, it'd be interesting.
Well, the trees are interconnected with each other.
Well, of course they are. Where else do you think the roots go? In a forest.
Into the ground.
Hang on, in a forest of thousands of trees, which have all got roots. Are you telling me the roots of those trees don't interconnect with each other?
Well,
of course they do.
They get tangled up with each other.
Of course they do. Absolutely.
But they're not actually connected, though.
Of course they are. Of course they're connected. They grow into each other,
aren't they?
No, they grow into each other.
Well, if they do, that's unusual, though.
How do we not know? And you'll smirk at this. How do we not know that energy was provided by other trees to right the tree that went down? Self-healing. The body self-heals.
Well, because if that was the case, then
nature can self-heal.
Surely if that was the case, then every tree that blew down would right itself.
No, it wouldn't, because it would depend how badly the roots had been torn out of the ground. So if what I'm saying is, if all that happened here was...
sorry, I told you about this now.
No, that the roots were just strained, you see what I mean? The tree goes over and it strains the roots but doesn't actually break them or sever them, then the tree, the roots can actually fight back and the roots can start retracting and withdrawing and somehow right that tree because of the will of the tree to get up. Now,
really?
Now, this is not as silly as you think, because...
It's very silly.
How many times have you been walking around a forest with your children? I mean, you see a tree...
We don't walk around that many forests.
You see a tree growing out of the side of a bank, but it has gone straight up towards the sky because it's attracted by light.
Yes.
How many times have you seen that?
You do see that quite a lot.
You see that quite a lot, right.
So, but also, if you've got trees growing on quite a steep bank, they tend to grow out sideways first because the roots have to go in.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. So, you're just agreeing with me now that the
well, that's very different from a tree being righted after being blown over.
The composition of a tree and its roots and the relationship between the tree and the roots and the ground and the other trees around it could, in fact, be responsible for that tree righting itself. I am absolutely convinced of that.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'm not convinced of it. I think
you don't have an expansive mind like me.
All right, well, since you've got such an expansive mind, let me ask you the tree question. You know, if a tree falls in a forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Is this all about the sound being created by air going through your eardrum?
Yes. Well, it's a philosophical question, actually, that people tend to ask, because it's one of those questions that actually doesn't really have an answer. What they're saying is that if nobody hears a sound, there isn't one.
There isn't a sound. No, what they're saying is
Which I don't think stands up, because if you had a microphone in a forest,
Yeah.
even though there was nobody around, of course the tree would make a sound.
No, it wouldn't.
Why wouldn't it?
Well, what you'd be recording would be a rush
Sound
of air.
a tree falling.
No, rush of air. And the rush of air would then be transmitted through your ear when you put your earphones on to listen to that microphone recording.
It's got nothing to do with the rush of air.
Of course
it's got to do with a tree falling. If a tree falls and hits the ground, it makes a noise hitting the ground. It's not the air.
It is. It's the displacement of air which creates the noise in your eardrum.
No.
Yes, it is.
If a tree falls on a house and breaks a window, what noise does that make?
Well, it makes a noise of a breaking window, a breaking house. But it's that noise has to be transmitted to your eardrum, and your eardrum is then effectively interpreting the retransmission of the molecular structure of the air around your human body head. You know. It is.
Around your human body head?
Yeah, it
Thank
is,
you, Dr. Parry.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
No, I don't have any idea what you're saying. It's absolute gibberish.
I'm not
So you're
gibberish.
one of those people who would say that if there's nobody there to hear the noise, then there isn't one.
No, there isn't one, no.
You see, that's what stupid people say.
No, it's not.
By the way, I must point out to you, I don't know if you saw this piece of the paper.
And you can't answer that one anyway, because if you're not there, how do you know whether there's a noise or not? You don't.
That's a good question.
Right, go on.
How about this one, right? Lead scientist Riccardo Marlioni from Edinburgh University said that
Edinburgh
University.
Sounds very Scottish.
People who are taller tend to be smarter. He's basically discovered from doing a survey that short people may actually be intellectually challenged. He says that his studies identified genes that influence both height and IQ with a significant genetic correlation between the two. What he's basically saying is shorter people are not as smart as taller people.
What a
which
load
pretty much explains why you and I get on the way we do, because all of your nonsense is always trumped by me. I can always tell you more information than anybody else.
How come Bernie Ecclestone is one of the wealthiest men in the world?
Well, he's very wealthy because he runs Formula One.
Yeah, and how tall is he?
He's very small.
Under 5 feet.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously exceptions.
Right. How about Napoleon? Napoleon Bonaparte,
He was quite short, yeah.
He was quite short,
He lost the war, though, with England.
He lost 2 wars, actually. But,
so he wasn't that smart.
He wasn't that smart. He came to his Waterloo. But
was he smaller than Nelson?
Yeah. Nelson was a fine size. Nelson was about 5'11".
Nelson won, didn't he?
Well, Nelson won the Battle of Waterloo, obviously, but lost his own life in it, which was unfortunately.
But that proves the theory, then, because Nelson's clearly more intelligent than Napoleon.
Well, he's not intelligent if you come back in a coffin in which you have been placed, surrounded by vinegar to preserve your body, so it can be laid out in the painted hall at the Royal Naval College in Greenwich. Now, talking about Napoleon Bonaparte...
I was down in Greenwich the other day. The Cutty Sark looks magnificent, by the way.
Well, the whole college looks fantastic. Why we ever vacated it as a naval college, I have no idea. You know why we drive on the right in this country? No, we drive on the left in this country. We drive on the left, and the Continentals drive on
the right on your way up here, do you?
No. And the Continentals drive on the right. And the reason for that is that Napoleon Bonaparte was left-handed, and the reason that
he didn't have a car, did he?
No, he didn't have a car. But what he did was he took up jousting late in life.
Did he?
Yeah,
on Elba.
Sorry?
Elba.
On Elba, I think. Yeah, I think he went when he was exiled. Now, the point is, jousting started in this country, and because most people are right-handed, the jouster rode his horse on the left, you see what I mean? Because he was holding his lance on the right, and that's how you entered each other.
Right.
Because Napoleon Bonaparte was left-handed... He did it the other way around.
Right.
So when he got back to France out of exile and took France again, he designated that carts had to pass the way that he, on the right, because
You're not making all this up?
No, I'm not making all this up, because he wanted to take up jousting in France, and he insisted that because he was left-handed, they were going to do it the opposite way to the way that the English did it. Yeah, that's why the Continentals drive on the right and we drive on the left.
Yeah,
it's to do with jousting.
I never knew that.
Well, there you go. You see, you learn something every day when you're talking to me. Because I have a mine of information.
You must have had to find a lot of other small people to joust with.
Well, I don't think it matters what size you're on your jousting. I think it matters how fast you come at your opponent, doesn't it? I've always regarded jousting as a pretty dangerous sort of sport.
Well, it is dangerous.
Because if they lift the joust at the last minute and it takes your head off...
Well, the lance.
The lance, yeah. I mean,
I'm sure people used to die doing it.
God, blimey, I can't imagine. Can you imagine galloping down on a horse and all of a sudden you come...
You ever ridden a horse?
You come into contact
you
with
never wanted to?
No, not really. You come into contact with a lance that suddenly pierces your body armour and takes 6 of your ribs out on the way through to crushing your spine.
There was a lot of violent ways to die in the medieval times.
Yeah, but I mean, who would volunteer for a quote sport like that? I mean, it'd be mad, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be like doing that skeleton where you go down the mountain at about 80 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, but you don't have somebody hitting you with a 30-foot lance, do you, on the way down?
Well, I don't think it's a very popular sport. If that's anything to do with you.
Sounds dangerous to me. Anyway, talking about galloping around, by the way. What about you when you're on the on the school run?
Yeah, the school run. I was on the school run this morning, actually.
Yeah, now you see, I was going to talk to you about this. I was talking to you this morning. You couldn't speak to you. You were in the car on the school run. And the only time I've ever agreed with the Green lobby in this country, right, because they've got a lot of, I think, sort of fairly wacko policies.
Yeah.
But they're saying, cut out the Green run and take your children to work by...
cut out the school run.
Yeah, take your children to school by walking. And they're absolutely right, because
that's
they
fine
say...
if you live near enough to school to walk.
They say that the biggest way to pollute any sort of area are very short journeys, going very fast, stopping and starting, and that's exactly what happens on the school run. And for a lot of the time, because there are no parking spaces, which you've complained about before, these cars for 3 or 4 minutes are just chugging out fumes while the children are getting in and out of them.
Well, I mean, it depends.
So why don't you walk your children to school?
Well, I don't walk my children to school because they live too far from the school.
Ah, but you've only just moved house. And in your old house, you told me you could walk there in 10 minutes, but you never did.
Well, no, because generally speaking, the kids are always late. The problem with schools now is if the kids are late, they mark you down as an absent day because you've somehow missed the register.
Well, you've got to get up earlier and get yourself organised.
Yeah, but you've never had children. You don't know how difficult it is to get children into a car, out of the house, to make sure they've got all the things that they need to take with them. I mean, they've got to take all sorts of nonsense with them these days to school, right? And the problem for most people is that they don't get their kids into the right school. So they've got to drive for a long time to get to the place where they need to take their kids to school. Yeah, but now I wouldn't be able to walk to school.
No, but when you could walk 10 minutes to school,
you're not going
to
walk in the rain.
You let your children down. Your children become, if you don't mind me saying, a bit lardy-arsey like you are if you don't let them walk.
To insult my children. You've insulted my father. You've insulted my mother. Now you're going to insult my children.
I didn't. I said they could become that. I'm sure they're not that at the moment. But if you don't give them enough exercise,
they get loads of exercise.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, they run around playing football at the weekends.
Did they run around after my aeroplane when you put it up in the air?
No, we haven't had a chance to do that again. Because the weather hasn't been really clement enough.
Not fly my aeroplane.
No, because we haven't. We've worked out, I think, how to fly it, but the weather hasn't been quite good enough for us to try it out. It's been too windy. If you put a
I didn't notice any wind
plane,
the weekend just gone.
Well, you weren't living where I was living. There was a big wind.
Mystery
yesterday.
Hurricane at Kent, did it?
No, I don't live in Kent. It was in Sussex, but there's an awful lot of wind down there, and because the plane you bought me is so flimsy, it's made out of polystyrene.
No, it's the latest, highest technology type materials.
No, but if you throw it up in the wind, it just blows the wrong way.
Well, I'm sorry, mate, you didn't have to fly it, and
Well, I don't know how to fly.
Not much of appreciation that for a very expensive present I bought for your children for Christmas.
It was meant to be Christmas. You gave it to me in January. That's the first thing.
They seem to consign to the loft.
Anyway, here's the point, right? Here's the point about the Greens, right? They're always banging on about polluting cars and all that sort of stuff. And I know that in cities you have big traffic jams. Where I live, there's no traffic jam as far as the school run is concerned. It just means that you have to drive for 10 or 15 minutes. And I don't sit there with the engine running because I get out of the car with them and I walk them into the playground. And they get probably quite a bit of exercise doing that. I mean, it makes me laugh with these people. I mean, there's whole factories in China pumping out noxious fumes into the air.
Oh, absolutely.
They're building something like, one
new power station a week.
A week, right? Yeah. And, they've got all sorts of horrible things going on there. But do they get any attacked by the Greens? No, absolutely not.
I think they're building 70 new airports in the next 5 years.
Yeah, you know what I think they should be more concerned with, these Greens, is making sure that people actually don't have to go to school and they could have like a virtual school and they could have broadband, which is better broadband and more active broadband.
What are you on about?
Because there's parts of this country where people still can't get on the internet, right? If you can't get on the internet, you can't do anything.
No, I don't accept that at all.
You don't understand the internet.
That's utter nonsense. I saw some report recently saying that if you've got a very fast internet connection, the price of your house could go up by 20%.
Yeah, quite right too. Because people want to live there. Because that was one of the problems that I had when I moved to the place where I live. They haven't got any 3G there, right? So I couldn't get any Wi-Fi for about 6 weeks, thanks to the amazing BT people. Yeah. And so in the end, it was literally marooned. There's no access to any kind of information at all.
But your thinking is so warped. So here we go. Stay estate agent comes along, here's this beautiful house, right? It's great, and it looks out over a slag heap, the biggest slag heap in the whole of Wales, where all the debris coal's been piled up for the past 27 years. And you say, that's not really attractive. And he says, no, but we've got very fast Wi-Fi around here, so we're going to put a 20% premium on your house for the benefit of moving in there.
For some people, that would be more important than the view.
Utter nonsense.
But you don't understand the internet. You don't understand modern technology. You got a new phone and everything. You lost all your contacts, didn't you? You didn't know how to send an email. You had to get people here to teach you, like a child.
I understand as much about it as I need to know.
That's no, you
don't. No. People get obsessed with the internet, and some people you see on a train for 40 minutes, and they never take their face up from their phone. They're obsessed by it, and if your life's being taken over by your phone and by technology, then you have lost touch with life. Why don't people read books written by Charles Dickens anymore? Because they're too busy. They're too busy staring at their phone and sending stupid notes to the stupid people who make up the majority.
You don't understand texting.
Majority of people who find that it's. The way to communicate these days is writing words of 2 letters, like "see ya in a bit." Instead of "I will see you,"
rubbish.
When I get to the station at 2:30 or something like that.
When was the last Charles Dickens book you read then?
Sorry?
When was the last time you read a Charles Dickens book?
David Copperfield.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
Well, I don't know when, because, I haven't spent the rest of my life, reading Charles Dickens books, have I? But, the Old Curiosity Shop, Oliver Twist,
Bleak House.
Tale of Two Cities, right? These are great classics, and nobody's ever read them. Nobody I speak. When I want to speak, if I'm sometimes in a pub and I want to engage somebody in conversation, I like to talk to them about, classic literature. But I haven't found anybody.
There's a funny old bloke in the corner reading a copy of a dog-eared old book. Don't talk to him, whatever you do.
I haven't found anybody who could talk to me about David Copperfield.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll give you a David Copperfield test next time you're in.